Welcome to the Rotary Time Show, a public service program presented by Rotary District 7610, Virginia. On our programs, we talk with Rotarians and community leaders and discuss how Rotary International builds partnerships to support local, national, and world communities. I am your host, Rotarian Dr. Deborah Jackson from the Rotary Club of McLean, Virginia. The success of a Rotary Club is dependent on the club president. They lead, inspire, motivate, and connect their clubs with communities and others locally and around the world. Joining me remotely is Rotarian Cecilia, the new president of the Rotary Club of McLean, Virginia for the 2024-25 Rotary year. Welcome, President Cecilia, to the Rotary Time Show.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jackson. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Oh, I'm just so delighted to have you because you represent the McLean Club, which is my home club. And I know we are very proud of you, so thank you for saying yes to the ask.
You're very welcome.
Mm-hmm. Let's start off because my audience loves to know more about the individual themselves. So tell us a little bit about your background, your life before Rotary, and where you're from.
Sure. I am from the DC area. I am from the McLean area. My family was originally moved here. My parents moved here originally from Bolivia. So I was born in Alexandria, but then I completed high school and intermediate school for the most part in McLean. So I graduated from McLean High School, not when you were principal, but before then.
Well, I would have loved to have had you.
And yeah, so that's where I'm from, and this ended up being home again, even though I moved around a lot. I went to school up in Boston. I spent 5 years in Boston. I then spent 5 years, not consecutively, but 5 years in California. I actually did my junior year of high school in South America. So I did a lot of moving around before we kind of settled in back in the DC area, but this always felt like home, in part because I've just got so many fond memories, and I thought the schools were great and they treated me well. And when I compared notes to other folks, I thought, well, this is just a great place to be. I studied law in American University. I did my graduate school back here in DC. So after Boston, I came back here to DC. It just seemed like the right place to be when you want to serve in some capacity. And as a young lawyer, this seemed like the right place to be at the time. Well, so we moved back here.
We're glad that you decided to make this your home again. I love having you and your husband and the children. Now let's talk about Rotary. How did you get involved in Rotary, and why the Rotary Club of McLean?
So we had, as I said, I'd moved around a bit when we were back here in California. Back here in DC, I had 2 young children with me. So I was part of a community that I had never been part of before, and that was the parent community. I ended up spending a lot of time at the community center, in part because my children were young, and so those were the classes that they would take. They would take classes at the community center. They were not in school full-time yet. And I got to know people in the community vis-a-vis the community center. And one of those community members was very involved in different organizations and civic organizations with Glenn Yarbrough. And Glenn Yarbrough brought me into a Rotary meeting. And when I walked in the first time, I looked around and I saw all these people that just made me feel at home. And I felt so welcome. I felt like we were really united by our shared values. So once I came in, I said, well, clearly this is home for me.
And thank you for joining. And I got to thank Glenn. As you know, Glenn is a past district governor, so he knows great talent and great members when he sees them. So we got to thank Glenn as well.
Well, I think I forgot to mention that they did put their director of membership. They put me in contact with her, and that was you. And after a conversation with you, how was I going to say no?
I'm glad I was that persuasive.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the club itself. When it meets, the type of club, the size. What can you tell us about the McLean Club?
So McLean Club has been around since about, I'm going to say 1965. I know I should memorize those numbers. Please keep me. So it's been around for a while. At present, it's got a little over 40 members. It has been bigger. There were times where it had closer to 60 members. And so this is, for us, this is a little bit on the smaller size. I am very proud of the membership and who is represented in the membership, because we have folks who are just bring such rich experience to the club. We've got folks like yourselves who are educators. We have folks who have served overseas. We have quite a number of members who've served overseas, either for work, for business, in some kind of public service or government service, or many of the above. We have a lot of lawyers, we have real estate agents, we have folks who are very plugged into the community. We do have a range of ages. There's some who are coming in now who are very much in the under 40 crowd, and we're very excited about that. We have a few members there. And then we have members who bring in more experience, some retirees, but a lot of people who juggle different, work as well as their Rotarian responsibilities still. And some folks who use Rotary as just one of many different organizations that they are part of.
Yeah, it's a very, very diverse community, and it's like you said, it's a very vibrant community, and I'm also proud to be a member, of the club representing the McLean area. Tell us about the club in terms of its service functions. How do we operate to ensure that our goals are being met, that people's ideas are being met? How do we do that?
So I am very proud, very lucky in that there are many members who have been there for a number of years. And so they bring some institutional knowledge already of how things can work, what things have worked, what things we want to try. I always rely on the other members to keep me informed. I still consider myself one of the newer members because I've been there for less than 5 years, maybe just a few years now. So they are very much my guiding principle. In terms of service, we are working on our outreach and partnering a little bit. And that's kind of my initiative, partnering a little bit more with our technological resources, so that everyone knows not just what we're doing in the community, but so that we can communicate within ourselves and everyone knows what we're involved in, because that's really where all these ideas of service begin.
It's wonderful. I know you have spent a great deal of time lately, helping members to be able to tell their Rotary story or tell the club's story, because the club is like all the other clubs throughout the district. They contribute a lot to communities, but sometimes people don't know that what's going on and how much that's out there. So we want to thank you for bringing that piece with you to help us to grow, because we're not as young anymore, at least I'm not, but I value continuing to learn. So thank you for that. But I also know that you spend a great deal of time with our guest speakers, our weekly guest speakers, ensuring that piece happens. Maybe some of our audience members might like to hear maybe some of the speakers you've had an opportunity to bring in.
Yes, I was very happy to bring in some contacts that I have now. We have a lot of members that have great contacts within the community, and that's always my first resource. And we will see folks that maybe we've seen before who represent public safety or first responders in the communities that can tell us exactly what's going on. We have representatives sometimes, or folks that have worked in the legislature who can also come in and tell us. But then we also bring in our own personal contacts. And one of those recently for me was Brian Monday of the Eric Monday Foundation. And that was a very special contact. I met him as I said, outside of Rotary, we shared mutual interests. And when I got to know him and the foundation and the work that they do, that really had a great effect on me. For my club, this was one of my great initiatives, was rekindling and rebuilding and strengthening our relationship with the youth in our community.
Yeah, and I know that you've been working on, at the high school level recently, trying to get Interact geared up again, which is wonderful. We're excited about that.
Oh, very, very excited about that. And, this is one of those let me be clear moments, because it was definitely an initiative of mine that I wanted this year to be the year that we repaired what COVID had broken. Because we'd had these vibrant presence within the 2 high schools that we have in our community. And then COVID sort of ruined that. But since then, we've been trying to rebuild it. But really what it was is that I felt like I pushed some members to assist me in this, and it was their dogged communication and their unwillingness to let the communication slide by and time just roll by them. They grabbed it, they went at it, and one thing led to another. I made sure we were on email listservs that we hadn't been on before, so I got to know what was going on a little bit more in our youth and in our high school communities, and that was how this started rolling. So it was really a group effort.
Yeah, and I think that our audience members or clubs out there that may be interested in Interact, we were very surprised when we got up to the high school to see the number of kids. We just plugged into something that was already in existence, their club day.
That's right.
And all of a sudden now we are bringing Interact back. So it's wonderful.
Yeah. The time was right.
Yes.
And here we are.
Yeah, and here we are. How about community service? Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, well, again, I'm proud of the work that my club has done when we've maintained relationships with different community organizations here, charitable organizations, and that a lot of that has been ongoing, and in a way we can build on that. So I am really, I feel very personally about the teen home that we provide meals for periodically and on an ongoing basis. Our club provides a meal for teens that have been displaced from their homes, either removed because of an abusive situation. In some cases, maybe they were runaways. In some cases, they were kicked out of the home. And I happen to remember having gone to school with a young girl who'd gotten kicked out of her home for some very arbitrary reasons. And I'm not just saying that because I knew her, but objectively, there was no reason for a 17-year-old to be on the street. They have nowhere to go. And then here in Tyson's Corner, in this affluent area, Rotary has helped support this initiative and this organization, provide a home for them, and we provide a meal for them. Now we're going to be able to maintain contact with them and sit down and have that meal with them again. That was one of those relationships that COVID had sort of severed. But now I'm looking forward to rebuilding those moments when we can. Again, this is youth, this is the youth in need, and they're right here. We don't have to go abroad for that. We also do work for Rise Against Hunger, and that is a multi-community organization event. That's many different charities that get together, and the churches get involved, and we raise money for Rise Against Hunger. We're pretty involved in that. So there's just a number, and then Share of McLean, of course, that are just right here.
Yeah. It's all about leadership, so we do thank you for that. But for now, we're going to take a quick break and come right back and talk more with President Cecilia from the Rotary Club of McLean. Please stay with us.
Possibilities are all around us. We see potential in unexpected places. And when we share our knowledge, vision, and connections, we turn great ideas into action in communities all around the world. Together, we can make real change happen. We're Rotary. We are people of action. Get involved at Rotary.org.
Welcome back to the Rotary Times. We're here talking with President Cecilia Kloss, the new president of the Rotary Club of McLean, Virginia, for the 2024-25 Rotary year. President Celia, when we left, you mentioned the many, many great projects that you all have going on currently in the club. But how about some challenges that you all might be having in terms of recommitment to some of the things that you lost during COVID? Or maybe you were able to bring them back now?
Sure. So generally speaking, I think one of our challenges has been partnering with technology. I feel really strongly that we can't necessarily replace, I don't feel like we can replace our meetings with Zoom meetings because fellowship is important. So I never really wanted to do that, but there's still a lot of tech that we can use to keep ourselves more in touch with our own activities and with the community. So that has been a challenge that I've been hoping to address. And some of that is just, I mean, you wait a year, 2 years, technology moves on, and we don't know there are all these improvements in the use of DAC-DB and the websites and the resources that are available. Sometimes it's easy to lose touch with those, but in partnering with them, we facilitate our ability to communicate with our network and with each other. So that has been one challenge. The other challenge was, of course, because of the pandemic, we had to redo some of our approaches, but we were still able to continue some programs, such as the scholarship that we offer to high school students. We were able to continue that, and we're just building on that as well.
Wonderful. You also have a hybrid approach. As many people I know, like myself and several others of us who travel during winter months, we're able to really still stay connected to the club. Do you feel that that has been beneficial?
I absolutely do. So the reality is the model of our meetings during the day in our community, that has worked well, except that time being what it is, the changes happened around us. It wasn't that the meeting ever changed. It was that our lifestyles changed. When COVID forced folks to go to remote work, some of those industries are still very much use a hybrid approach. So where people are physically has a great effect on where they can meet on a given weekday. And some of us wear many different hats. So our ability to zoom in on a meeting and catch what's going on, it just, or be able to do a seminar, attend a seminar or a training session remotely, that changes everything, because then we can maintain our commitment to Rotary and maintain our growth without sacrificing anything else.
Oh, I love it, love it. Fundraising, because you do a lot in the community. You give a lot of grants out. How do fundraise, how does that work in your club?
So we have a signature fundraiser every year, and that is a chocolate festival, which we really enjoy. We have some amazing vendors from all over the area who come and not just and sell chocolate and support us and sponsor us, and we really enjoy it. We have thousands, literally thousands of people who come in. It's one day. It's one day. I think it's from 11 to 5 p.m. and we shut the door at 5 p.m. There's always folks running at the last second. Oh, can I get something? It's amazing. People sell out of our chocolate, and it's chocolate. So what is there not to love? We have really enjoyed that. That is every year we have that fundraiser, and that is one of the last weekends, usually the last Sunday in January, if I'm not mistaken. Our second fundraiser, which I'm very excited about, and a shout out to our former president, Carmen Wu, who started this, was our 5K. This will be our second annual 5K. It was a run walk, and it's in the McLean community. It was very successful. It was a lot of fun. My family gets to participate in these 5Ks, and we enjoy it. And so we're hoping to build on that success as well, and just continue having that as our second fundraiser.
That'd be wonderful. And I guess people can visit your club's website if they want to know when these things occur.
That's right. Absolutely. The information is on the website.
Perfect. Great. Let's talk about your international service programs. Is the club involved in those?
We have a few international programs. I believe there was an initiative that was going on in Central America, and if I'm not mistaken, we have more than one in Africa as well. We have a strategic water alliance, which is also an effort of several clubs that participate, all to provide clean running water to those who don't have access. I'm very excited, frankly, even these smaller projects that don't seem like they have great impact, providing sanitary napkins to schools overseas. We can take for granted that when our young girls go to school, they don't have to miss a day because they have, they have a day where
An accident.
they can't participate for reasons that nobody should have to miss a day because of something normal and natural that happens. And we provide the sanitary napkins for them so they can continue their education, continue to be empowered, and hopefully build economic success, because there's a trickle down effect. In missing school, you miss your education, and girls get discouraged, particularly abroad.
You're absolutely right. And what I also love about what you're saying is the partnerships you just mentioned, how clubs can have an even greater impact because they're pooling their resources to be able to support many of these projects. So that's always, and I think that goes unstated most of the time, that larger, greater impact if you can just get people to partner with you as well. So thank you for that. How does your family support you? You mentioned your family becoming a part of Rotary.
Oh, well, Rotary is very welcoming to family. I have brought my children to meetings sometimes. That's just how it works out. They like it, they love it, and they are just absolutely welcomed with open arms by the other members. I think we have this shared value that community does mean the families first and foremost. So the members, Rotary had supported my family in welcoming us here, and my husband is very supportive of my involvement in the community. He's from he's made an entire career of public service, service to the country, but that is also service to home. And for me, service begins at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Which one of the projects do you feel most personally satisfied by?
Oh, that's hard. That's hard. I'm very proud of our work with the sanitary napkin drive because it seems so trivial, but it just isn't. I am very touched by our support of teens in crisis here in our own community. As we can take for granted that we have such an easy community, and our crime, God bless, is pretty low, and we have nice, stable community here. But what's going on behind closed doors, we don't always know. Mm-hmm. And some of that passion that I have for our youth is partly what makes me want to reconnect with our Rotaract clubs, our Interact clubs, make sure that we maintain a presence in the high schools so that those teens always know that we're there and that people are always willing to help. And we want their help as well.
I'm thinking about the motto, service above self, the Rotary motto. How has that been helpful to you as you've guided your own business, work life, and personal life?
It's funny, when I look back at my own career, I think the times where I found it most challenging is where I felt like I wasn't really of service, where maybe it was lucrative, but it didn't really feel like it was serving a purpose. And that's just a personal value that I have. And again, when I met my husband, he also had a value of service. I think part of that comes from, I remember growing up in this area. My parents were not from this area. They were not from this school system. And I think they felt very alone. Looking back, they must have felt so alone without community. That your community is your people, and you can create a community based on your shared values, and everyone looks out for each other. That's a really powerful thing. Mm-hmm. You go from an island to an army.
Yes,
yes. So when you have a community of shared values like Rotary, I serve, you serve, we will all take care of each other together. That becomes very powerful.
Yeah. Well, President Cecilia Klaus, we wish you all the best on your journey this year as president, and know that you'll come back and see us again and give us an update, because we got you at the beginning of your of your tenure. So maybe by the end of your tenure, you'll be ready to come back and give us an update on how things are going.
If you'll have me.
Absolutely,
Sure.
absolutely. Thank you again for being here today and for
Thanks
sharing.
so much.
Mhm. For the Rotary Times program, I am your host, Rotarian Dr. Deborah Jackson from the Rotary Club of McLean, Virginia. You're welcome to join us at a Rotary Club in your area, either for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or a service project. You can find a club near you by looking us up on the internet. Many clubs are hosting meetings in person, virtually, or in some hybrid format. You only need to look us up for details. Remember, our time is your time, and it's always time well spent. Please join us for our next program as we continue to celebrate Rotary's 118 years of service above self. Funding for this program is made possible by the generosity of Rotarian Lynn Heinrichs, State Farm Agency, McLean, Virginia.